I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We are going back to the golden age of Disney with the original Dumbo. Now, Dumbo is kind of a weird position here because it is one of, if not the shortest movie in the Disney animated canon, not counting the wartime compilation films. Those themselves barely count as movies. But in terms of this is a single solitary story that's told and shown in a theater setting, at 64 minutes, this is a very short movie. Barely even qualifies as a movie, honestly.
Actually, under the current Oscar rules, this would not count as a feature film. For Oscar rules now, if memory serves, it must be at least 70 minutes from opening title screen to the final credit. So this is, if this came out today, this would count as a short film, not a feature film. But at the time it came out, it did count as a feature film, and so it is still listed as a feature.
Yeah, and this was nominated for an Oscar, Best Scoring, which it did win in 1941. But the reason this movie is so short is because Disney was kind of in a dilemma at this point, and we've talked about some of these financial dilemmas before. Like we've talked with, Disney almost had to shut down the animation studio after Sleeping Beauty bombed or didn't reach expectations. This was the response to Fantasia not meeting expectations. But also, Disney put a lot of money into Fantasia. Not only the animation, not only getting a whole symphony orchestra and legit celebrity performers to be in the film, but also with Fantasia, they actually rented specific special theaters and fitted them with speakers, basically inventing surround sound, so the audience in the theater could feel like they're actually at an actual symphony orchestra. Great concept in theory, but again, this is an era before surround sound. Before, like, if you go to a theater today, you'll see all those speakers all over the theater. This was an era before all that. So they had to go into the theater, manually install all of these speakers into these specific theaters just so people can watch the movie. And that cost a lot of money to Disney, so they needed to recoup that money as quickly as they can, and the best way to do it is to produce a cheap movie. And it worked, and this movie actually made more money than Fantasia did.
Not only was this a response to Fantasia losing so much money, but it was a response to Pinocchio losing so much money. And now Pinocchio, through When You Wish Upon a Star and Jiminy Cricket and all that, is now like a cornerstone of the Disney brand. And we kind of forget that it wasn't really a big hit when it came out. So Disney had kind of back-to-back problems with losing money on Pinocchio, and then Fantasia just really bombed for them. And Dumbo was their hope to try to get some of that back. But also remember that, like, this is during World War II, and because of that, they are cut off from the foreign market. So it's not just that people are saying, like, oh, we don't want to go watch these Disney movies. It's that they're pretty much restricted to the North and South American market at the time.
And this would really bite them in the butt when we get to Bambi. If we ever, whenever we get around to Bambi, that'll really get them, because, again, you're cut off from the foreign market, and that eventually ends up hurting Bambi.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're cut off mostly from the entire European market because they're busy at the time with other more important things. And so is Asia fairly quickly, being drawn into that same battle. So, and even by this point, as we've mentioned before, Canada gets in there before America does. And so, market in Canada, they're sending a lot of people over, and their market is not really as lucrative as it used to be. So yeah, it really hit the American film market for everybody, but Disney especially took a real rough hit during wartime.
And we've talked about, Disney during the war, half their animation staff gets drafted. So they're only with half a team, and that half a team gets cut up more to do propaganda films for the war. So they're doing these shorts and trying to stitch them together to make a movie after this. So yeah, the World War II, not a good time for basically anyone.
The thing is that what people kind of forget about Dumbo, if they hadn't watched it in a while, which I cannot remember the last time I watched Dumbo before we're doing it, here.
I remember the last time I saw Dumbo. It was day one of Disney Plus. I'll tell that.
Oh, really?
I'll tell that story when we get to it.
But I had forgotten how little dialogue there is in this. Dumbo himself does not say a single word during the film. Mrs. Jumbo, his mother, says one line of dialogue at the beginning of the film, and then she sings her big song, and that is the only time you hear her speak. A lot of the other characters only maybe have one or two lines. So, I mean, this is a very dialogue light film, and none of the actors are credited in the movie.
That is weird. But yeah, eventually, if you go on the Wikipedia, it'll list the full cast of who's in it. But yeah, if you're just going by the movie, they'll list a director, they'll list some writers and some animators, but they do not list a voice cast.
If you're familiar with Disney at this time, you do recognize a few of the voices. You do recognize Verna Felton. You do recognize Sterling Holloway. people like that. But if you're not big into Disney at this time, or you're not very good with voices, then you have no idea who these people are unless you look them up. And that's kind of sad, you know. They deserve their flowers. Most of these people were very in the founding of Disney as a brand, especially with the animation side during this golden age, you know, in the early years. So they definitely deserved their credits, and I'm glad that the unions have made sure that today you cannot do this to voice actors anymore.
So I mentioned that the last time I saw this movie was day one Disney Plus, and that was because for some reason, and the thing is, this thing still persists today. This is 2025, and it still persists long after the freaking remake came out, is that for months leading up to Disney Plus's premiere, there was this big rumor that, oh, they're going to edit out all of the offensive material of the early Disney movies. Some of those offensive materials we've talked about when we've talked about the early Disney movies, the natives in Peter Pan and other things. So going into day one Disney Plus, they were really, really pushing. They're going to edit out the crows out of Dumbo. They're going to edit out the crows. And I'm thinking, one, how? Because they're literally the reason this elephant can fly. Or at least the elephant believes he can fly. We'll get to that. Two, one of the most well-known songs from this movie is sung by the crows, When I See an Elephant Fly. Now, granted, when you think this movie, you're thinking pink elephants, you're probably thinking Baby Mine, but you're also thinking When I See an Elephant Fly. And that's their song. Like, you cannot cut these crows out of the movie without cutting out a plot point of this movie. And people were so adamant that they're going to cut them out, they're going to edit them out. So day one Disney Plus, the minute it launched, I went to Dumbo, fast forward to that part of the movie, and they're still there. But there was this thing that people who clearly do not have this service will keep saying, oh, they've edited them out, they've edited them out. No, they have not. They're still there. And honestly, for a while, this movie had a content warning because of it. When I turned the movie on today to do the rewatch, the content warning was not there anymore.
Yeah, we actually talked about that off mic, that we were expecting to get that racial sensitivity content warning, and it is not there. The only content warning is beware, people smoke in this.
Not that a baby elephant gets drunk.
Yeah, the baby elephant and the mouse get drunk, but the tobacco is the...
That's the main issue. So it's like, I want to rip the Band-Aid off it since I just mentioned the crows. Yeah, the crows are stereotypes. They are black stereotypes. At least most of them are actually voiced by black actors, including one of them would be voiced by the actor who would go on to play Uncle Remus in Song of the South. So most of the crows are voiced by black actors. So that is a bit of a light on these problematic characters, except for the main crow, which is voiced by a white man, Cliff Edwards, as he voices Jim Crow.
Well, originally they named the character Jim Crow, and then they changed the name to Dandy Crow. The thing is that none of these crows are ever mentioned by name in the film. A lot of the characters in the movie are never mentioned by name in the film. Timothy Q. Mouse, never mentioned by name in the film. The only reason we know his name is that there is, at the movie, you see him signing his name in like a newspaper article or something, and you see his name written down. A lot of the other characters have that same kind of thing. If they have a name, it's not spoken in the film. Maybe it's written down somewhere, or maybe Disney mentioned it later in some kind of, merchandise or something. But yeah, they changed the name of this crow in like the 50s, I think. So it was really early on that they were like, oh yeah, maybe that's a bit racist and we should change it.
So yeah, the other crows, again, they're not mentioned in the name, but we have Deacon Crow, Fats Crow because he's chubby, Specs Crow because he wears glasses, and Dopey Crow. There you go.
But you know what? Watching this again, yeah, okay. But also, with the exception of the original name and the fact that one of them is voiced by a white guy, this is not as bad as a lot of the other racial portrayals at the same time.
Like I said, the natives in Peter Pan is way worse than the crows in Dumbo.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff Disney was doing at the time is way worse than these crows. Because, like you said, you cannot remove the crows here and have the plot work.
They give him the magic feather. Granted, it's a joke. They even, they pull a feather off one of the crow's back, give it to him, say, here, take the magic feather and you can fly. And Timothy's right there kind of winking at him. Yeah, the magic feather will make you fly.
But the thing is that haven't you ever been around a kid that needs a little extra push in something?
Yeah, I mean,
and you've done something like that with a kid to give them that little bit of confidence until they have confidence in themselves.
I mean, you fly in an airplane and there's a kid with a stuffed animal, and they'll need that stuffed animal to help them be brave on the airplane.
I mean, I don't. It's not necessarily to me like when you're dealing with little kids like that. To me, it's it's a Santa Claus thing. You're not lying. It's magic.
A kid with a lucky blanket or something,
Yeah.
Something a placebo to help them have that little bit of confidence, and that's fine. As long as I was going somewhere and I forgot.
As long as once they're like 12 or 13, we've moved on from that. Like there comes a point where like the kid grows up and we're in the real world now.
Yeah.
But Dumbo's supposed to be like 4, like mentally. So, like, it's okay at this point. They're just giving him a little extra confidence. It's like, here's a feather. It'll help. And like, given the mental age Dumbo is supposed to be at the time, that helps. And of course, when push comes to shove, Dumbo drops the feather and Timothy is like, hey, you had the magic in you all the time. And that also works,
Mm-hmm.
But, back to, crows and racism, like, is it the best portrayal and most sensitive portrayal? No. But the thing is that they were taking from things at the time. You can listen to old jazz records and hear some of that same patter. The dialect is not necessarily incorrect that they're using,
Even the jabber during the song is of the era.
Yeah. And so, yes, there are some stereotypes in there, but there is a lot in there that was accurate to the time, in certain cultures, So there is a bit of nuance that I think some people are forgetting, and when you dive into this, there has been a lot of discussion about the fact that, unlike a lot of racial portrayals in some of these early Disney movies, these crows are like kind of heroes in the movie because they are on Dumbo's side. Like, yeah, they kind of poke at him a little bit, but given the way everybody else in the movie like makes fun of him, it is very much like, you're our buddy and we are on your side. It's very much a friendly ribbing rather than, look at the freak, we're going to make fun of him and his ears. Everybody in the circus did.
I'm just busting you, pal. We're all good.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that Timothy, Dumbo doesn't give back because he doesn't talk, and also he's like 4. But Timothy is also giving back to the crows, So, like, their relationship is very much, we're all pals, which they don't really have with anybody in the circus. But when they meet the crows, they're very much immediately friendly. And the crows kind of realize what's going on. They realize that, like, oh, you're kind of in a bad place. You've been kicked out of your home and everything. And given how they're coded, that they're in there to be like, hey, we know where you're coming from. We are also from a group of people that know what that's like.
Especially when Timothy says, do you know what it feels like to be ripped away from your mother's arms? And that seems to be the one that gets to the crows the most.
Yeah, and so they're put in there to be like, we're the ones who know what you're going through, and so we're very sympathetic to Dumbo and how he's feeling. And yeah, the magic feather's kind of a wink wink nod nod kind of whatever, but it's also a kindness they are doing to this poor kid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it really does make them heroic figures and kind of paternal figures, because Dumbo does not have a father. Like, theoretically there is a father, because at the beginning of the movie, he's got a mother. Her name is Mrs. Jumbo, and that suggests that there is a Mr. Jumbo. And Dumbo's original name, given to him by his mother, is Jumbo Jr., so that suggests a Jumbo Senior, Mr. Jumbo Senior. Theoretically, there is a father out there named Jumbo, and we never see him. So these crows and Timothy are kind of his paternal figures.
On that, I want to switch over to Mrs. Jumbo herself, because the movie starts with this narration of through snow, through hail, through, it's the mailman quote. Everyone knows it. But they're talking about the stork. And right at the beginning of the movie, you see this entire flock of storks delivering babies to all the circus animals except for Mrs. Jumbo, who is looking up, looking around, trying to find the stork that will have the baby for her. And, eventually she does get what she wants. She gets this baby elephant. She's longed for this child. We don't, it's implied that she has been waiting a very long time to have this child. And you have the other elephants who are like, never, no, preposterous idea for me to have a child. Which, for 1941, I get it, but in retrospect, having the childless mother, the childless lady elephants who are the villains in this movie, kind of sketchy. The idea of children just disgusts them. But
yeah, it is a bit odd.
Yeah, but again, this is 1941. But whatever. Moving on from that, it's she has wanted a child for presumably a long time, based on how they animate her, how her head hangs down when the storks leave and they don't leave a baby for her, the joy on her when she finally gets the baby. So she's very protective of her baby that she has wanted for so long, that when she sees the humans making fun of her baby, taunting her baby, physically assaulting her baby, mama bear mode, mama elephant mode, whatever you want to call it, she is literally seeing red. They animate her eyes red. She does not like the idea of someone messing with her child. And she takes it out on everybody. And she is punished for it. All she wanted to do was protect her child, and they punish her for it and separate her from her child. That, to me, is more sad than anything else in this movie. Is a mother that honestly did nothing wrong. Mrs. Jumbo did nothing wrong. All she did was protect her child.
It is very, very sad what happens to her, because that if the circus had been taking care of their animals properly, that this would have never happened.
Yeah, for Disney, Walt himself, who has been a big fan of the circus, who has had circus performers and circus animals perform at his parks. Yes, this is years before Disneyland, but my point is how they portray the circus in this movie as a very shady organization. You know, how the animals are, on face value, the animals look like they're being taken care of. They have their own environment. Each animal has their own specific car on the train that they're on. But like once the tent's up, it's just the animals are just not even being taken care of. They're off to do whatever they want, which results in Dumbo getting teased and humiliated. And if the circus themselves are not doing anything to protect their animals, well, Mama Jumbo's going to do it for them. And if this was a different movie, not made by Disney, Mrs. Jumbo wouldn't be in the movie anymore. Because the circus would not want to keep a, quote, mad elephant around for as long as they do in the movie.
Yeah, so after Mrs. Jumbo gets, punished for trying to protect her baby, she gets declared a mad elephant and put in solitary confinement, according to the other elephants, which is just she's chained up in this tiny little train car by herself. Poor thing. And that's where she spends the rest of the movie until the end. Later on in the movie, to make Dumbo feel better, Timothy the mouse tells him, like, hey, I got permission for you to go see your mom. Which, a lie, but whatever. And takes Dumbo over to see his mom. And they can't, because of all the chains she's in, they can't really get close except for being able to touch trunks through the bars. But Mrs. Jumbo has her big lullaby song, Baby Mine, which is the best song in this film, easily. But I'm going to tell you, I really didn't know this song from this movie. I knew this song was from this movie, of course, because I heard it first in this movie. But when I was a kid, my mom was very in love with a movie called Beaches that starred Bette Midler. And in that movie, Bette Midler sings this song. The soundtrack to that movie became like really important to me, and I listened to it all the time as a kid. And so the Bette Midler version of this song is the one that comes to my brain when I think of this song. Watching this again for the podcast, I realized that Bette Midler adds a lot of lyrics to this song that are not in the original.
I don't know if that's a Bette Midler edition or if it's Disney had this song longer, but because the movie was so short, they cut part of the song. Like they didn't record the entire song. I
don't know, but the Bette Midler version is much different in the lyrical content. And that's the one that I know. So yeah.
There's also the other big song from this movie. Because Dumbo trips on his ears and ruins the elephant pyramid routine, He is relegated to being a clown, which in this circus is seen as the lowest of the low of the circus. Imagine you're a professional clown, you see this movie, and Disney is telling you you are the bottom of the barrel in the circus hierarchy. But yeah, like, it's seen as humiliation, as a punishment. So, but the clowns come up with this great idea for Dumbo that they can, will finally be treated with respect around here, and they celebrate their idea by drinking champagne, and then they knock the champagne bottle over into Dumbo's water bucket, and then Dumbo and Timothy drink the water, which leads us to probably the second most well-known song from this movie, Pink Elephants on Parade. The utter fever dream that is Pink Elephants on Parade. Which weirdly has become a song associated with Halloween. I don't know how that happened. At least,
I mean, other than the fact that this is like an absolute nightmare of a sequence.
Because, like, Disney always brings out, like, yes, there's your, Nightmare Before Christmas songs and stuff like that. But, like, when it comes to songs that relate to Halloween, Pink Elephants on Parade being part of that. Yeah. But, yeah, this is just total nightmare fuel. You can tell that the majority of the budget of this movie went into this sequence. Like, they're drunk, they see these elephants morphing, and it's like this, and it's very similar, but the Heffalumps and Woozle song from Winnie the Pooh.
I had, when I was a kid, a Disney sing-along VHS, and they put both the Pink Elephants on Parade and the Heffalumps and Woozle song on there. And I was like, what? Why have you put all this nightmare fuel on the same video?
Don't worry, the song will be over, and then the Blue Owl will tell you about a different song.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole thing is just it's well, I mean, like I said, you look at the animation in this, and you could tell that's where all of the effort in this movie went to, of just doing whatever they wanted. It was just like, you can tell that this was the sequence they really wanted to do for this movie. Like, if they could, they probably could have released this as a short. I don't know how much of it is used now, but of course, Pink Elephants being a reference, just being drunk. You see pink elephants. You see things when you get drunk.
A lot of the Disney movies around this time have a section where it's like, uh-oh, someone underage got into the alcohol. Let's talk about how bad that is.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this when we talked about, Pinocchio as well, I believe.
Yeah. It's in Pinocchio, and there's like a couple of other movies and shorts and stuff like that where it's like, oh no, it's super bad for the kiddies to get into the alcohol, And, I'm not saying that they're wrong on that by any means, of course, but it's such a strange through line that for a while every film they did had these kind of let's stop the movie just to be like, hey kids, weird stuff's gonna happen to you if you take a drink,
Mm-hmm. Or smoke.
Yeah, sometimes they go into the smoking is also bad for you, but yeah.
Now, adults can smoke and drink fine, but children, children smoking, that's bad. Children drinking, that's bad. Which is true, yes. Children should not drink alcohol. Children should not smoke cigarettes. I agree with that, but it's just odd to go back into these old Disney movies and see that they've dedicated time, that they know that children are going to be watching these movies, and put that in there. And we've talked about this with other movies. You would not see something like this in a kids movie today. Standards and practices would not allow it. You cannot have this scene of children drinking. Well, I'm trying to find the right word and it's not coming. It's a cautionary story. Can't have that. It's okay. It's a cautionary story. We're teaching kids not to do this. Yeah, but kids are going to imitate what they see on screen anyway, so don't do it. I mean, when we were kids, and I'll throw it out there. When we were kids, Tiny Toon Adventures had an episode where the kids drank alcohol and drove a car and died. Now, granted, at the end of the episode, they said, yeah, this episode was really depressing. We shouldn't have, don't drink, kids. And then that episode kind of got banned for a while because, kids could imitate the characters drinking alcohol, even though this was basically a PSA to not drink alcohol.
It is very strange, some of the things that we went through as kids. Like, I forget which cartoon it was, and we may have talked about it before, where like they did a whole thing about how guns are bad, and then they banned the episode about how guns are bad because they thought kids might see it and think guns were cool.
Yeah. Like it's why the action shows we grew up with had either futuristic looking weapons or didn't use guns at all. You used swords and stuff. And well, that's safe because kids can't get their hand on a sword, but a kid could get their hand on a gun.
So this movie, we talked about how short it is, and we mentioned it in comparison to some of the ones that are little shorts shoved together to make a movie loaf, as it were. This is not necessarily a movie loaf. However, this is about 10 minutes of plot stretched into 64 minutes of movie.
Yeah, apparently this was originally intended to just be a short. Disney had intended this to be a short, but felt that to quote, have an accurate representation of the story, they extended it, which I don't believe. I think they already had this as a short. But like we said before, they needed to recoup the losses from Pinocchio and Fantasia. So they just, stuffed this 10-minute short into 64 minutes to release it as a movie. A short movie that you can play several times a day and get some money off of it.
Yeah, and here's the problem with that. Most of this movie is incredibly boring. When I got done watching this today, the only thing I could think of is a quote from Tom Servo in Mystery Science Theater where he goes, well, it was a bad movie, but at least it was short.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that all of Dumbo is bad. It's just that you could cut out about 2/3 of Dumbo and you'd have like a really good, tight short film that is very entertaining.
It's like watching the Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers animated version of Horton Hears a Who. That's like 5-10 minutes. And then you watch the Blue Sky, Illumination, whatever. You watch the full animated movie of Horton Hears a Who, and they overstuff that and they stretch it. And you just say, well, I just want to watch the old cartoon. It tells the story, and you don't get anything you don't need. Or like the Grinch, you watch the original Grinch, the original animated Grinch, and then you watch any of the movies that came after. A lot of it is just a bunch of things stuffed into the story to stretch it out to 2 hours, and it didn't need to do that. And I kind of agree with you on that regard. But as for, like I said, the integral to the story thing, this technically is based off a book that never actually came out. So Dumbo was written to be a product demo for a toy for children called Roll-A-Book. It was going to be a book. It was going to have these little cranks that children could roll. Instead of turning pages in a book, it would be one long piece of paper. The kids would roll the little cranks, and the pages would roll around, and they could read the story. And the creator of the Roll-A-Book came to Disney to try to market it. Hey, maybe we can work together and market this toy. I could get your characters into these Roll-A-Books and sell stories with your characters in it. Well, Disney was not interested in the Roll-A-Book idea. He did like the story that was on that demo, which was Dumbo the Flying Elephant. So he bought the rights to Dumbo the Flying Elephant, which I find is which is a very interesting way to go about things. Like, you have a product that you want to sell. Let me, here's the demo, how it works. I just wrote this story to be a demo. It didn't really do anything. And, oh no, I really like this story. I want to make a movie based off this story. Even though you came to me saying you want to do this with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. No, I'll just buy your idea and make a movie out of it.
I think the other thing that kind of bothers me about this is that it's Dumbo the Flying Elephant, and there's like a minute and a half of flying.
Yeah, he doesn't actually fly until an hour into the movie. An hour into the 64-minute movie. Yeah, the thing you want to see, the thing they push this movie on of, you will believe an elephant can fly, doesn't happen until almost the end of the movie. At least when they did the live-action remake, what we know as the movie was just the first half of the movie. So I'm going to be honest, I've never actually seen the full live-action movie. I'm just going by what synopsis I've read.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't have much interest in watching that. But the thing is that if you reduced this to the most important parts, you could honestly have the thing go from Dumbo's birth and him getting picked on by the other elephants to him getting picked on by the humans to his mom getting locked up and singing that lullaby to him. Maybe one scene of him being humiliated with the clowns and, meeting Timothy and all that. And then him either running away or whatever to meet the crows. And then, him flying and becoming a success. And that's like 15 minutes right there.
Maybe 30.
Maybe 30 if you're stretching it.
Like, if TV was a thing at this point, this could have been a TV special.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and, Dumbo would become a big part of Disney after this. I mean, the Dumbo ride at the Disney parks, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, it's a classic. Everyone goes on that.
I have the best story about that Dumbo ride.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have been to Walt Disney World twice in my life. And, or at least twice I remember. Maybe I got taken when I was like an infant or something. But the first time that I remember, I was maybe 5 or 6. And I went and my mother used me as an excuse to stick to the kiddie rides because she did not like any sort of roller coaster, anything fast, anything tall, any of that.
No wildest ride in the wilderness for Mom?
Yeah, no. She was very much a, I wanna go on the carousel and that's about it. So she used the fact that she had her little toddler with her to be like, no, I need to stick to the kiddie rides because, I have child with me. But I wanted to go on the Dumbo ride. And one of my clearest memories from that trip is I wanted to go on the Dumbo ride. And if you've never been on the Dumbo ride, it has 2 switches. It's basically a carousel, but it has 2 switches, one that makes Dumbo go up and one that makes Dumbo go down. And you just go in a circle and you can make the little Dumbo carriage go up and down. And that's it. Very much a little kiddie ride. Well, my mother was also terrified of heights. And I wanted to make Dumbo fly. We have to go high. Mommy, we have to go high. Dumbo's got to fly. I want to push the up button. And my mother spent that entire ride trying to convince me that no, it's even more fun if Dumbo stays at the ground level. So the entire time was a fight between me and my mother, me like pushing the up button and my mother immediately pushing the down button. And she was trying to be so nice about it instead of being like, no, Mommy is scared of heights. I want to stay near the ground. She was very kindly trying to convince me that, no, the ride is even more fun if we're at the ground level. And that is one of my more adorable memories of my mother at Disney World, trying to convince me that Dumbo needed to stay near the ground instead of go flying. And so anytime I think of Dumbo and the Dumbo ride, that is the memory I have, and it always makes me laugh because it's so adorable.
And at Disneyland, they also have the Casey Jr. circus train, so you could ride the train from the Dumbo movie with the little song, Casey Jr. going down the track. All of that, yes.
Yeah.
And Dumbo has become, we talked about this before when we talked about Fun and Fancy Free, how the Bosco segment was originally meant to be a sequel to Dumbo. That it was supposed to take place at the same circus that Dumbo took place in. They never did that. There was an attempt at a direct-to-video movie in the late 90s, early 2000s for a Dumbo sequel that never happened. Growing up, I watched the original incarnation of the Disney Channel, and there was a show that I would watch every day called Dumbo Circus that kind of took place after the movie. It was, live action, people in puppet costumes doing a show about Dumbo and his new friends in their circus, Dumbo Circus, the biggest little show on Earth. There was probably a lawsuit there. But, yeah, and Timothy not in the show because he's a mouse, and I guess they did not want to have a giant mouse or have a small puppet mouse with Dumbo. and they changed it to him having a lion friend named Lionel, and I don't know why I still remember that, but I do. That's how much I remember the show called Dumbo Circus, and I think I'm the only one that remembers the show. But yeah, Dumbo became this big, for a while, cornerstone of the Disney company. Now it's just just the Dumbo ride, and that's about it, because Dumbo's not even a meetable character these days.
Yeah, they did add Dumbo to the light show around Cinderella's castle, where they had an effect where Dumbo would fly around the castle during the fireworks and light show for a while. I think that was at Disneyland.
It's the same effect they use for Tinkerbell, or in some Buzz Lightyear. They often do that for as well. Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas and the House from Up. It's the same effect. It's a person in a costume. They get tied onto that wire, and they just fly from the top of the Matterhorn down to the top of Sleeping Beauty Castle. I think it's just Tinkerbell these days, but for a while it was Dumbo. So, Kiki, does Dumbo have the magic?
I think about 15 to 20 minutes of Dumbo really has the magic, and the rest is sadly padding, but it still is a Disney classic, so yeah, I'm going to put it in the magic category.
I would put the magic as well. I agree with you. There's half of this movie is really good. Half of this movie is padding. There's 3, maybe 4, and I'm counting that 4th, the Casey Jr. song, because any of the other songs in the movie just are not memorable. Does anyone actually remember the clown singing "We're Going to Get a Raise"? I don't. And I just watched the movie.
Yeah.
So, it has a few good songs. It has some great moments. The moment right at the end where Timothy is pleading with Dumbo, "Please, Dumbo, open your ears. You can fly. Please." That is one of the all-time moments in a Disney movie. It's just that one moment. And sometimes that one moment is all you need. So yeah, I would say Dumbo has the magic. Next week, it is our St. Patrick's Day episode and our March Madness episode, because we are dealing with the luck of the Irish. We are returning to the world of the Disney Channel original movies. It is a St. Patrick's Day episode. It is a basketball episode, and it has to deal with leprechauns. I have not seen this movie. I only know it from reputation. This is going to be a very interesting watch.
Yeah, same. I'm kind of weirdly looking forward to it.
So come back for our St. Patrick's Day / March Madness episode, Luck of the Irish, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available every Monday at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.